to go over questions and stuff from our previous sessions. So, do any of us have any question we want to ask, or anything that needs to be like point out? Okay,
Please, or if you
we
have
absolutely.
question, you can. Sorry, I was going to say that if any of them have question, they can. I mean, bring it on board, bring it on, cause from next week, um, they'll be diving deep into every single thing that they've learning so far on this program. So please, if you have question, or maybe we should leave it to you, the end of the session.
Okay. So
Okay. So
let's proceed. So today we'll be talking about. Okay, yeah. So today we'll be talking about case studies and design storytelling. Um, this is the part where you are done with your design, you've completed your prototype, you've done your testing, implemented your feedbacks and all of that. Then you now need to like write a case study on your design, or you want to put your design on your portfolio, you want to talk about your design, what you did, and all of that. So today we'll be talking about that. Now, there's this hard truth with stuffs like this. A lot of people have, the same skills. For instance, best believe all of you in that class have, when you're being asked a question, all of you in that class has, almost the same thing to say about something, but is also similar in design too. But what makes you stand out in documenting your designs, in presenting your designs, is not your design itself, it's not your Figma file itself. It's about how you can explain the decisions that you made while you are designing. Are we following? Okay, so it's about how we explain the decisions that you made while designing. So portfolio, when you are adding stuff to your portfolio, when you are writing case studies, it's not about just nice screenshots, it's not about just good layouts, it's not about just those things. You are telling a story, you are telling a story about your problem, you are telling a story about how you fixed that problem, how you went about it, what was the outcome like, and all of that. So to achieve this, it's very simple. You need to identify, number one, the problem. What was the problem you fixed? Who was struggling with that problem? Why did that problem matter? Instead of just saying, oh, I designed an app for people that love to buy food, or I designed an app for somebody that loves to like scroll social media. You don't say things like that. You just talk about what the problem is those people are facing. Let me share my screen so I'll show you an example of what a proper case study looks like. Yeah, can you see my screen? So this is a case study. This is a design, a real product. A friend of mine did this on his portfolio. So I'm just going to, for right poses. So let me just use this. Now, this is what a case study looks like. talks about what the design is. The name of the product is called Go Sauce, and it's a food supply chain stuff, just like you are going to the market, but you are going to the market in your browser. So that's what it does. So instead of him just talking about, oh, I designed a way that people can buy food stores and get stores from their houses, he started by identifying the problem. Let me send this into the meeting box so we can go over it while we're on the call. So it started by identifying what the problem was. He said in Africa, offering food procurement, managing the ordering process, and generating invoices manually can be time consuming, error prone, and insufficient. He also like mentioned some other challenges here: ability to attend to clients without delay, long period of time taken to get a list of orders, and it goes on and on and on and on and on before he now started talking about his process of designing. So the first thing to do is to identify your problem. Once you identify your problem, then it's very easy for you to proceed to how you are solving that problem. You cannot solve a problem you don't know about, right? So you need to identify what your problem is. So that's the first step of writing a proper case study or like telling a story about your design. So the second thing to note is that now that you've identified the problem, what did you do about it? So this is not a matter of, oh, I designed social screen, I did this, I did that. No, you need to identify, like, work anybody that is reading your process, you need to walk them through what you were thinking when you were doing it. What did you consider? What did you try that did not work? Like, what decision did you make? So this allows people know that you are not just somebody that moves rectangle around. You are not just somebody that goes straight in this to design, and you are somebody that actually thinks about what they are designing. So back to this case study, the person said, oh, after aligning with stakeholders on business goals and pain points, I charted a pragmatic MVP path: research, prioritize, define, design, build, and all of that. I'm trying to get through at something. Okay, yeah, this now. So the person also highlighted their brainstorming process, which this can be zoomed. So you can see that the person had to, like, after making research, had to draw a bit of chart to be sure of, okay, this is what the flow looks like, this is how the design is going to be, these are the things I need to get designed. So the person didn't just show us straight into their Figma. The person had to like walk us through what they were thinking, what they were thinking about it. I will also, let me also share this case study too. So for this now, this person is designing a web app that helps people write letters, design letters, and send to like themselves or other people. So the person talked about, okay, yeah, the person identified the problem. This person talked about how people find it difficult for them to express themselves in like some ways, and you might want to express yourself some certain ways that you don't want to send a text or a physical mail. So what do? You might need to go extra hard on designing a letter. So the person talked about the problem. Then in his process, yeah, he talks about the process too. No, the person didn't just show us his design straight up. He also talked about how he started solving the problem, assembled a team, started with usability, interactions before the visuals. The person had a roadmap, a concrete roadmap, see how those things are highlighted here. So you need to also show out your process. You don't just show us, oh, I designed this out of the blue, like straight up. You need to show us what your process was like. What were you thinking? What were you looking into? And all of that. So that's the second thing you need to like look into. Are we following? Hope I'm not so like fast. Yeah, okay, thank you very much. So now, after you've identified the problem, you've talked about your problem, you've also gave us, a hint on how you are proceeding to solving the design. Please note that solving the design, you have to show us, that's where your visuals come in. After you talk about when, what and what you did. Let me share this. After talking about what and what you did, then that's where you start working us through your designs. This person started working us through their low fidelity designs, their high fidelity designs. You don't have to show all your design. You don't have to show all your design board to us. You just need to show the key. You just need to show the key parts, the key screens. You need to like highlight them, things that are very important. For instance, this person talked about, showed us how the ordering process is, the order summary notifications, just a list of screens was being highlighted. So you need to like, as you are telling the story, you need to show us what it looks like, what your design actually looks like. Then you now move into what happened after you did your design. When you did your design, you need to talk about, oh, what did people do differently after your design? What did your testing show us? What changed and all of that? What are people seeing? What are people seeing from your design? This is kind of like metrics here. If you are working on a real-time product, you can talk about how your design improved the company's growth, how it improved their ordering system. For instance, now this person talked about how after the design, yeah, they are able to 100 users, create total amount of letters, and and all of that. There are other instances here where you can also talk about the key pain points that were solved in your design process. Trying to I'm trying to load up something. Okay, so let's look at this for example. This person also designed a transaction timeline where you can able to see in detail how the transaction went. This is like a back office stuff for a company like the company's name is Anchor. They do stuff just like Paystack and Co. So after this person talked about the problem, then the design process, then he also proceeded to talking about the challenge. This is still part of the problem. Then the person now talked about their solution, showed their design, showed very good. Now this person now showed that after I finish designing, users can now toggle and see a list of all transactions, see everything, see timeline, see events, see an audit trail who did what and when. This person talked about the event systems, talked about their timeline, talked about visual status indicators. So what can users see when they are like, you know, when they see steps? So is this transaction successful? Is it pending? Is it failed? So this person just talks a lot about what changed after the design, what the person brought in after designing. So it's part of what you as a designer too should document. So you are writing your case studies. So you identify the problem, talked about what you did, and after doing what you did, what happened, what is like your the result of your design. You also need to show that. So the formula is simple. Yeah. You move from problem, you talk about your problem, talk about your decisions, the reasons for your decision. So in between your decision making and the reason why you are making those decisions, you are shipping in your design screens. You are showing us what the result of those decisions are. then move to results. So you have to understand that every case study, every strong like case study, every strong design documentation, they follow that pattern. So you can just randomly say, oh, I noticed that maybe you are revamping an existing design, then you now say, oh, I noticed that users are confused about location screen. I noticed they are confused about this and that. Then I did this. Then while testing, 4 out of 5 people were able to navigate that fast. You have to like be precise in what you are talking about so that anybody reading your stuff will know that, oh, this person knows what they are doing. Are you following? Yeah, okay. So now that we've talked about um what a case study actually is, what makes up of it, then we now need to talk about design storytelling. Now, a design storytelling is simply about making your process understandable to anybody that wasn't in the room with you when you are making that decision. For instance, you are trying to explain your design to a user, somebody that is like a different user base that you're trying to acquire for like to use your product and all of that. Now the person is not with you when you the person is not with you on Figma. They were not designing the stuff with you. They did not test alongside with you. So how do I tell my design in such a way that that person understands what I'm talking about? Now, there are ways in which you can achieve that. Number one, you have to be specific about what you are doing. For instance, let's say you are designing an application now. You design an application that is for let's say mobile money application. For instance, let me okay, Pampe is a good example of mobile money where it's not like the normal traditional bank. Everything is happens on the mobile. So they are trying to explain something like that to somebody. But now, what your application does is very simple. It doesn't send money with like let's say account numbers and all of that. It just sends with what can I'm trying to look for a very good example. Okay, username works just fine. You design an application that allows sending of money, airtime, bills, and all of those things. Like it's just username, and they are trying to explain it to somebody that does not know about it before. You need to like there are ways that you have to like tell that story to the person. You have to be very specific about what you are talking about. So you don't just go that, oh, I designed this app, when you input your username, it starts, it looks through your account, see your phone number, then all those things that they are long talk. You have to be specific that, oh, this app simply just sends money, sends you utilities to your username. You have to be like very specific about that. So when you're specific, it makes people trust that, oh, you actually did the work instead of going through like vague things, and just making people confused about what you are doing. That that atom of sorry that's you being specific would actually make people know that, oh, this person knows what they are doing. Yeah, that this person knows what they are doing. Now, the next thing you need to consider is that every good story must have something to push against. So there is the good side and there is the bad side. If something is not working, you have to fix it. And if something is already working, you don't need to fix it. So you also have to talk about that in your design too. that, oh, this part was broken in the design and this is what I did. Once something works, just leave it like that. You don't need to talk about it again. For instance, you are trying to redesign something, and then what you are trying to redesign, something is clearly not working. Let's say the authentication system is broken, the onboarding system is broken, the transaction flow is broken. You need to talk about it that, oh, in this part of the design, this part is broken, and this is what I did to fix it. Now, the last thing you also need to consider is, why did I do it? Now, this makes you stand out because you didn't just design. You have a specific reason why you did what you did. For instance, you are designing something and you needed a okay, let me share my screen to this part. Now, this product now here, let me share the product for us. So now this product, there's a reason why I'm trying to, okay, yeah, there's a reason why it has this layout, and this person talked about it here. So the person said, after onboarding, users can enter the writing phase where they can draft, edit, and refine their message until it feels right. So there's a reason why this layout is like this, and it's simple. You type what you want to type on your letters, you type it here and you see it here. You know, you refine and edit until you're satisfied with it. The person made it sure, you see. Empty, the person also showed us empty input field for the user to start writing, see what it feels like when, after the person finished writing, it shows them here. So the user can see that, oh, this is what my letter is going to look like when my recipient gets it. And that is the reason behind the design decision of making the entire layout like this. So things like this here, you have to talk about it when you're in your design. So this person is even more explicit about their functions. For instance, let me move straight to the colors. Yeah, this color part I actually like. The person showed us how the color palette of the design is inspired by, you know, a watercolor case. Now, this feels even more descriptive. You that are reading, you know that, oh, this is what this person was thinking about. They are basically carrying your design along your design process. So things like that is what makes yeah, things like that are what makes your design stand out. Are you following? Yeah. Okay. Do you want to ask a question, Dami?
I want to put it again.
Yeah, good evening.
Sorry, please, what's the difference between the case study and the storytelling?
Okay. Now, a case study follows a particular pattern. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Yeah. A case study follows a particular pattern. The pattern is what the problem is, what I did about the problem, what happened after I fixed the problem, and the results of, you know, everything that I did. That's what the case study is. The problem, what you did about it, what happened, and
The
your
results.
results. So in simple terms, let's just say problem to decision, decision to reason, and the reason to your results. So that's what a case study is. The case study part is more useful when you are trying to let's say document designs, add designs to your portfolio. You need to like talk about them and all of that. So it works like that. And storytelling is like when you are being expressive. you are being expressive in your design. So that part, so you can be like, let's say you worked on a passion project, or let's say you built something from scratch and you want to like talk about it expressively. You want to be very expressive about it. You want to be specific about what you did. So that's what it is. So both looks the same, but they are kind of different.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What, yeah, John, please. Your hand is up.
Good evening. Just like he explained to us just now, I was going to ask if let's say you are presenting your case study and this thing on your portfolio, between the case study and the storytelling, which should come first? Let's say, for instance, you have a design and you are trying to present it on Behance or any portfolio website. Between the case study and the storytelling, which one should come first?
Now, any of these two can come first. Let me explain something. For instance, when you are trying to, let's say you are being hired to like redesign something, you can't just you can't just talk about, oh, here's what I did, here's what I did, and all of those things. You have to follow a specific pattern. That's where a case study comes in. You can use a case study when you are trying to talk about something new. Now, you can use a case study when you are trying to talk about, oh, I was being tasked with redesigning this, or maybe there is this particular problem in, for instance, a let's say you saw an for instance, now we all know that on WhatsApp you can't be able to edit a status when you post it. Yeah, that's a problem on its own. So you can design something around that, design an interaction about that, a solution, and then now write a case study based on that solution. You know that now that is already existing. The problem is already existing. The decision that you made to that problem is already existing. You already had your reason why you did it, and then the results, you can put that out as a case study on your stuff. Okay, sorry.
I just want to add a little to what you just said as regards case study and storytelling. I think we're just mixing the both up a bit. First of all, what if we're talking about case study, like yes, like Dominic has said, is basically giving an in-depth detail of what you've done, like the whole process, basically writing the detail of the project you've done, right from the user research, then to the product, then to the user interface, everything, the information architecture, the whole project. Now, where storytelling comes into play is basically how you pass your message. Just like if you're telling a story, you're trying to tell someone something that they would be able to relate with, not just using words that they cannot relate with. So while you're writing your case study, you're writing it in a way that tells a story, it's not just process, but it's a process, yes. We are telling a story, trying to make them understand the goal, trying to make them understand the project's goal, the aim, and the problem you're trying to solve. Either you're following that pattern, at the end of the day, you're telling the story using your case study. I don't know if that breaks those two words down. Daniel, I don't know if it's for me or it's for Dominic, but you can ask what you want to ask. Why Dominic continue?
All right, thank you. Can you hear me? Hello, can anybody
Yeah, I
hear
can
me?
hear you.
All right, all right. So I just wanted to confirm from what you just said actually that storytelling is a process exercised within case studies. Like it's just the creative way that you pass across the message in the case studies, right?
Exactly. You can tell
All
stories
right,
in
thank you.
different ways, but in our situation, you're telling stories with your case studies. At the same time, you can also write a case study without telling a story. What you've done, your whole process, you've showed it in your case study, but a person can see it, can say, okay, this person understands the project, or I don't understand the goal, I don't understand, might not really be able to connect the dots if the person does not understand product design. But with storytelling, you can be able to pass your message that even a non-product designer can understand the goal, can understand what you solved, and can understand basically the aim. So when it comes to product design, you're not just designing for yourself, you're designing to solve a problem, right? And you follow due process. So meaning that you understand the problem you're solving, you did your research, you after your research, you did a whole lot of, so you're telling that story, allowing the user to go through each of those process, not just starting from problem and then you go to product design, then you go to information architecture, then you go to the problem at the end. Like that is not telling a story. So you are arranging everything, but a non-product designer can understand the journey through the story you're telling with a case study. Dominic, you can continue. Dami, you want to ask a question? I don't know.
Okay, yes, I want to ask a question. My question is, you can use anyone, right? Like, is there a specific? Sorry,
It's not two different things.
What do you say?
Storytelling and case studies are not. So you use case study to present your project. That there's no difference. There's not debate about that. But now storytelling is how you pass your message. It's not a case study on its own. It's not a different project. Now, let me use Google to explain. I just searched case study and storytelling on Google. Now, I say using storytelling in case studies transform a standard report into a relatable journey that builds trust and demonstrates impact. Do you get that now?
Yes, I did.
So it's not two different things. You're not creating a storytelling. You're not just creating a project and just okay, I'm using storytelling to present my no. You're creating a project, a case study, but how you pass your message, you are using storytelling. Just like when you go to when you see a copy or when you watch a movie, right? You understand the old stories in that particular movie, right? From the beginning to the end. In as much as they are passing a message, but they're using it in a way that you can relate with, telling that story, making you to relate with it, making you to understand from the beginning when they give birth to the child to when the child grows. Like it's a journey. The same thing you can implement in your case study. Taking the user through the beginning, when you got the problem, why you got the problem, then the process you follow through till you're able to deliver that project, and then you're able to do public usability studies and all that. Like you're following a pattern, it's like a story, while following your case study process. I don't know if you get.
Oh, yes, I do. Thank you.
Dominic, please continue. I just want to just add that. Yeah. Dominic, are you there? Your mic is not working. Okay. While we wait for Dominic, I don't know what he's talking about before I just heard about the case study. So maybe while he's getting his mic set, somebody can ask questions. Yeah, I'm Daniel.
All right. So while he's working on his mic, I just wanted to confirm actually, because from the case study that he analyzed, I saw that the first thing he pointed out, or the first thing on the case study was, I think, problems and challenges. So I just wanted to tell you, majority of the whatever you're going to be putting in the problems and challenges, they come from sources like desk research, surveys, questionnaires, and what you noticed or observed. Right, that's what constitutes the problems and challenges, or is there something else?
So no. So now, where problems come to play, have you ever done like research before? Maybe your final year project, if you're done with uni, or any form of research. So if you've done something like, you might understand what I'm saying. Now, before you do any research, first of all, there must be a problem you're trying to solve, right? Let's say before you create why do you create surveys? You have to have something you're trying to achieve from that surveys, right? Now, probably, let's say a company wants to create, they find out that, okay, users in Nigeria, for example, are finding it difficult to send money abroad. They want to be able to create a seamless platform where users can easily transfer money from Nigeria to the abroad and then convert it back instead of going to this local exchange platform, this local place. Now, that's the problem. The problem is that users are currently facing challenges in sending money from Nigeria to the abroad. Now, why then they don't understand who are the people having that problem? What are the current solutions to that is currently available? Is it how easy it is, how difficult it is? And this is where you now have to now do research. Now your research now it not depends on how you're doing your research. Are you using surveys? You're sending out surveys to get insight of the problems you're trying to achieve. Now the goal is to understand the current challenges users are having towards sending money abroad, right? So when you're creating your surveys, you're creating questions that you want to get answers to. Okay, have you sent money abroad? Yes or no? What platform do you use to send money abroad? What are the challenges you're facing? These are questions you ask. At the end of the day, once let's say you get over 1,000 response. Now, when you're analyzing that data, you're trying to understand the pattern. What platform are they currently using? What is their major challenge? Now, the goal is to understand, is to build a platform that makes it going to be easy for you to transfer money. Your interviews, your surveys, and all that is giving you a direction, the major problem that, okay, beyond, so just like problem, getting, if initial problem you are finding is like an hypothesis. Okay, I think that users are having this problem, but then I can't confirm that without speaking to the users. Now, speaking to users to ask them, that, are you sure they're having this problem? Yes or no? But it's not just that simple. There are detailed other questions to understand. Now, the surveys cannot give you direction that, okay, there are solutions currently, but probably solutions are slow. Probably the current platforms, their charges are too high. Then you now start narrowing down the pain points of the users, and that's where you get from the surveys and all that. Then after you do that, you understand that, then you start doing, do you get that flow now? But at the beginning, you first of all start with, okay, this is my theory, this is my hypothesis, this is the aim of this project. Then you did your research, and your research basically validates and give you much more direction before you start doing other aspects of your product's design. Do you get the question? Do you get the answers to that question?
Yes, yes. Thank you very much.
Okay, I think Dominic is back. Is Dominic back?
Yes, I'm back. Thank you
Okay,
very much for holding the fort.
no
Those things
problem.
can be very tricky. Yeah, so I believe we already got everything that is being said. So you can have your, there's no case study without storytelling and all of these things, you know. You can just write something without telling your story about it, and you can also write something while you are telling your story. So it's quite together. So are we, sorry, please give me a moment. So yeah, are we clear on that, on those explanations and questions now? Okay, so our time is running. So to wrap up this phase, whenever you are like having to, whenever you're having your design stuff, you finish designing, you want to write about it, you want to publish and all of that. So you need to think about these three stuffs first. First, you need to highlight what the problem is or what situation led to the decisions that you are making. You have to be specific about it. Check it out. You have to be specific about it, what users were doing wrong, you know, what was broken, what existed, and all of those things. I don't need it. And those things, you need to take note of that. You need to write that out. Second, you need to decide on what to do and why you have to do it. So not just what you are doing, not just what you built, not just what you designed, but the choice, like why did you choose this? Why did you do this? And why did you do that? You need to take note of that too. Like for instance, why do I have to use color blue? Why do I have to use a grid view? Why do I need a modal instead of a new screen? Like you have to be able to justify those decisions. So that's the second thing. And then the third thing is what happened after I did all of these things. Like what did I observe? What changed? What was different? What's the metrics like? And all of that. You have to like take note of those stuffs when you're writing your case study or writing stuff for your portfolio. So in the next like design you want to do, or maybe the next product you want to like embark on, you have to like take note of these guides, these stuff. So you have them in your design. So anybody reading through your design or anybody reading through your case study, reading through your decisions, they will know that, oh, this person knows what they are doing. They know what they are up to. They know their onions well. So yeah. Do you have any new questions or anything to?
Okay, so I have a question.
Okay.
So my question is, for the case study, is once you've done all your design and all, it's just like the is it more like the research you've done, the research you've gotten and done, and you start writing everything about your design, everything that okay, people need to know and all, what the problem, what you solved, what you did, and is it just like how you did it? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, you need to, yes, those things, your research, what questions did you ask? For example, you are trying to design for like trying to design something for, let's say, artisans and all of that. So you are asking questions on both sides. You need to talk about the questions that you asked, you need to talk about the response that you got, what people were really talking about. You need to do those things. Also, maybe after you finish designing, you did some usability testing and all of that. You also need to include it that, oh, after this I had to make a test. I test this, I got this feedback, I adjusted this, and all of that. So you have to take note of that. So anybody that is reading, they are carried along, they feel part of the process of your design.
Okay, and also for the storytelling, are you then the storytelling just like the emotions you put there? Just want to be sure the emotions and everything, like you're just giving them, and as they're reading, they're understanding that okay, this is something they want to go through and all.
I don't think emotion is the right word, but we are going through that part, so I would say emotion works. So,
okay. All right.
Yeah, Daniel, a question.
All right, thank you. My question is, I have two questions actually. First one is for the case studies. I actually saw a couple of them, I think yesterday or Wednesday, right? And I didn't understand a couple of things in the case study, but one that actually stood out was that one that had to do with, I think, a flow of decisions or flow charts kind of thing. I think you pointed it out today also. Can you um put more insight into that? What exactly? I think maybe you have said it before and I didn't hear, but I just wanted to ask
Sorry,
for that. And secondly, yeah,
sorry. Before you proceed, please come again on your first question. I could not get you very clear.
all right, can you hear me clearly now?
Yes.
All right. So what I'm trying to ask is, on the case study, you pointed out something that looked like was it flow chart or flow of decision, something like that,
Oh,
right?
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. So I said that I actually saw it in a couple of other case studies as well, and that was one thing that stood out, but I didn't necessarily understand it. I didn't really go into it, but then at first glance, I didn't really understand. So I was hoping you could shed more light into it. Should I go on my second question?
Yeah, please go on with your second problem.
All right. For the second questions, I wanted to. Okay, first of all, have you worked with brands that do not have or let me put it like this: the brands or companies you work with, do they always give you color codes or their brand colors? Because I want to ask how you come up with colors if they don't, like how you combine colors to make it look aesthetically pleasing, and how to actually communicate the actual message or value of the brand, and then still communicating it in the actual design, and then how to combine multiple colors in a design that still makes sense.
Okay. For your first question, um, I would, what you are talking about in your first question is mostly regarded as what we called user flow. A user flow is that chart that we design just to keep us on track as designers, to keep us on track on, oh, when somebody clicks on, let me try to open this image and share my screen. So we'll be able to have visuals on what we're talking about. So can you see my screen now? There's this on this flow here, we have login, create account. I can't see what this is, but this is like a flow here that shows that, oh, when users on this cart page, these actions and all of that. So you can add that. I don't think it's something that is compulsory must to have, but if you can also show your users, I think it's something that is nice to show your users to show your audience what the flow looks like on the products that you are designing. It's not everybody that would want to like see a preview of what you designed or use what you designed, but when you are able to like see the flow, glance through the user flow, they'll be able to have an overview of what's going on in the product. So there is that. Then for the second question about colors, a lot of times you are given the brand colors that you will use to design. Maybe you are designing for a brand that they have their specific colors, they give you their colors and you design. And aside that, there are also things I like to call, personally, I like to call them universal colors. Universal colors such that when you are designing something and there's a state for like success here, like maybe transaction successful, by default, that's like green, red, and all of those things. So I have to like find those shade of colors myself to match with the stuff that I'm working on, the design I'm working on. So the brand won't give me that part. They just maybe give me stuff that the color code that work with their action buttons and call to action buttons and all of that. So I can really work with that. And if I'm not being given a color code, if I'm not being given a color code or anything, it's up to me, and I'm giving the like creative stuff as a designer to like look for something that works. So it's up to me to make a research about what that brand does, then I can try to arrange colors that matches what the brand does, then go through a list of colors myself to use for the project. So it's two ways. You can be given and you might not be given, but a lot of times you'll be given what to work with. And there's also something that I feel like you should stretch over to in your free time. You don't have to like make designs at that time that you're learning. It's called color theory. You can go to YouTube and all of that and just randomly learn about color theories. It's also going to help in allow you to choose decisions for the type of colors to use when you are designing stuff, designing different states and all of that.
Okay, I want to add something to the issue of colors and based on the question, just add a little. Just to add to what Dominic has said, one thing about especially when it comes to colors, fonts, is that for every organization you're going to be working with, they should have, and I've answered this question before, they should have their brand, which means they should have their color combinations, they should have their fonts, they should have all kind of images that speak their language and things like that. They should have a structure. If it's a startup that don't have that, in most cases, they would want you to work as a not just as a product designer, but also as a brand expert that can basically direct them on what kind of color combination. And that's where you can, your knowledge of understanding of colors will come into play. Principles of designs, principles of colors, combination of fonts, what is the messaging behind every color, what's the messaging behind every font, how do you combine colors, primary colors, secondary colors, tertiary colors, how do you, and even neutral colors, how do you combine them? So those aspects would definitely help you. Those are not a pure product design work itself, but it will give you an edge if you understand that. But in a proper product design structure, in most organizations, you would get their brand details. Like I remember there was a particular company I was working for. I started as a product designer, but before I work as a product designer, I first of all designed their brand identity and their brand guidelines before we even started anything as regards to product, because everything about the company starts from their brand. So you as a product designer, you're working with what they've already built as regards their brand and using it, because a brand, a product design, either website, mobile, whichever products you're going to be designing for them, is a touch point of the brand. So you have to reflect what the brand messaging is all about. And if they don't have a consistent brand, which is going to be a problem for them, not your own problem, except they're expecting you to help them to define their brand structure, their brand colors, which is a different ballgame for that of a product designer. But the knowledge of colors is going to help you if you're working on personal projects. But when it comes to the structured projects, you most likely not need to know so much about color combinations and the likes. Yeah. John.
Sorry, please. Speaking of colors, let's say for instance you are designing something, and let's say you have your color palette already, you have your color styles and the textiles created, and let's say for instance you have to chip in something like maybe a card that is not supposed to exist, and then you look at all the colors you've created in your style and none of them fit that card. Is it right to chip in a particular color, like just check the color, this thing, color table, I just pick something that matches?
Okay, let me just add this before Dominic says something. So it's for proper setting, when working in when starting a product design project, now one of the best approach, either if you're working for a big company, most times you meet an existing structure. But let's imagine you're working for a startup. One of the first things that's expected for you to do is to create a design system. That is going to help you a lot, because when that design system, basically you are creating components, you are creating reusable components, your buttons, your button states, your fonts, the different font states, your colors, how to use the colors, the light one, the dark one, the different that there's a lot that comes into design system. So if you create a design system very well, you most likely will not be in an issue where you need a color that you would not get. And for every design system, a design system is an offshoot of the brand. You can't bring something outside of the brand color. Now, for example, let's say a company is let's say that okay, let me show you people this design. Just 1 minute. Let me just share my screen and show you this. I'll show you. So let me just show you this. This is a. Can you see my screen?
No, your screen is not up yet.
No, not yet.
Okay, I don't know why. What means? Okay, can you see it now?
Yes.
So let's say this is a project I did in 20. I can't remember the year. So this is the brand color. I'm going to show you the brand colors. So this is the um the some of the colors. So this is the brand colors: the yellow, the blue, the purple, um and this pink color. Now you can't bring, let's say, brown into play. Mhm. You can't bring you can't bring um like a different color entirely. So everything you have to work around have to be an offshoot of what the brand represents. Do you get that to be an offshoot of what the brand, no matter how no matter your inspiration, no matter no matter the inspiration you're getting, it has to be limited by the message. You have to be limited by the structure you're working with. I don't know if that answers your question. If that does not answer, I think Dominic can add more to it.
No, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm satisfied with your answer.
Yeah, and another thing I would love to add, if I continue, the moderator has already held the fort today a lot. So another thing I would love to add is that when you're working with dealing with colors, yeah, and there's already a set brand colors for you, like the guides are already there, everything is already there. That's why color shades are also important. For instance, if you are looking at, oh, you want to chip in, the brand color is green, you are doing something and you feel like maybe an orange would be the best, and the brand color doesn't support orange, the best thing to do is to have a shade of that green, maybe a very lighter shade, or yeah, I'll prefer you have the lighter shade, then adjust your inspiration to fit the lighter shade of that particular color. Yeah, the brand can't hold your neck because still it did not go outside their color. You just had a little shade. The rule is already there. What's the rule if the rule can't be broken? So I'm 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 in support of doing that. The goal is just to have you to like still follow the guidelines, while still being creative. So you don't go outside of it. And if you are being tasked with the responsibility of having those colors from scratch, setting those brand stuff from scratch, I would advise you to have like a proper sit, how do I put this, a proper sit down. You have to reminisce on your inspirations, reminisce on your stuffs, so that when you have those colors ready, you have your inspirations ready, you won't go outside of it. Do you understand? So you have to like everything still has to like align, so you're not moving outside of your system. So the design system too is very, very important. When you're working with large organizations, even if it's a startup, the design system is important. It helps you like grade stuff, do stuff, make your design seamless. So yeah. So I think that's all for today. I hope we'll be able to like implement these stuff we've learned into our design processes moving forward. And also thank you to our moderator for the extra lessons we had today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dominic and Essie, for, I mean, an insightful and interactive session over tonight. Thank you so much, and we don't take it for granted. Yeah, guys, what do we have to say to our mentor? What do I have to say to him tonight? You can drop that on the chat box. What do you have to say to him? Drop that on the chat box. All right. Quickly before we finally wrap up the session tonight, um I would like to thank every one of us for joining, and I mean for always being. I've been noticing most of us. For a couple of us, we've actually been consistent from the